Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of NB Bassin. I am your host, Donald Patterson, coming to you from what is finally officially spring. Our season is getting closer, and I'm sure most of you, just like myself, are getting very, very anxious to get out on the water if you haven't been lucky enough to get out already. Let's start off once again by thanking the folks that have helped me get where I am, and help me every day in the fishing industry with what I do. Fish Bomb Outfitters, Southern Yankee Baits, War Dog Lures, and Northern Michigan Outfitters. And once again, I have to, most importantly, thank my wife and my son. Without them, I really don't have anything. What to discuss this week? So much going on as you lead up to the season. So much to do, so much to think about. I wish I could say that I'm recording today from my mobile recording studio, but unfortunately this time of year in my industry, work slows right down, so I'm actually sitting in my garage, sitting on my boat, sorting through my tackle, thinking about what I need to do to be ready. Our season opener for the New Brunswick Sport Fishing Association is a little over a month away. We're going the first weekend in May on Harvey Lake. I must say, a body of water that I have minimal experience with, but you don't know, you never learn until you're out there. So we will be going back to Harvey again this year and giving it all we've got, and hopefully having a slightly better result than last year, because last year we came in with an empty live well. So, but before that happens, what has to be done? Well, where do you want to start? Tackle, equipment, boat, it's all got to come into play. You've got to have the time, you've got to make the time. You know, in my case, like I said, I'm not working a lot this time of year, so I am spending time sorting tackle. What's got to go? What do I need? You know, I've picked up some stuff over the winter, like I'm sure most of you have. But So odds are your bait stock is not your biggest issue. You know, for most of us, we have picked up baits over the winter. We have kept our stock up. I mean, I went the entire season last year without certain baits ever having to be purchased because I had such a stock on them from the previous year. And I'll probably have the same situation again this year. So, what's my next step? My baits are good. Or, you know, reasonable. I know there might be a couple things I have to pick up, but for the most part, I'm good on bait. Well, doesn't matter what's on the end of my line if my reels aren't going to treat me right. To me, this is the most important part of season prep, especially if you're a bait caster guy. You know, spinning reels, there's a little less that you're going to be able to do. But if you are using casting reels, which I just have made the switch to in the last couple years, if you're using casting gear, this is going to be some of the most critical time you spend getting ready for your season. And if you're anything like me, a couple times throughout the season as well. Tear them down. Clean them up. I've got a brand new reel in my hand right now. I shouldn't say brand new now. I've had it for a few weeks. It's a Bass Pro Shop Pro Qualifier. Decided to pay. I had some gift cards from Christmas. I needed a new reel. I figured I'd pick it up and give it a try. Well, any of you that follow my Facebook page have probably seen the video by now of me throwing some casts with a casting weight and watching my foolish dog chase after it. That reel, you know, that line gets drug across my driveway through dirt and mud and water. So this brand new reel here in the next couple weeks is going to get opened up. It's going to get cleaned. It's going to get oiled. It's going to get greased. If I was doing a video element, which hopefully down the road I will do, but right now I'm not, obviously not doing that, I would actually do a step-by-step, you know, how-to video, I guess you could say. on stripping these reels. And I mean, every casting reel is a little bit different, but there's all kinds of videos out there on YouTube that will take you through step by step, explaining to you what needs to be done. But if you don't want critical gear failure at the wrong time, it's some of the most important time you're going to spend. You know, especially here in our northern climates, we use our gear all summer, all fall, and then come winter, we tuck it away. And I'm not going to say that we neglect it, but a lot of us at the end of the season, we don't want to think about the fact that the season is ending. So stuff just gets put away. Oh, we'll get to it later. We'll get to it later. Well, in a lot of cases, and I'm guilty of this, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody but myself, later never seems to come. We procrastinate. We put stuff off. We stall. You know, I had it a little easier this year because I was able to have my own garage to store my boat, store my equipment in. Last year, I had to store my boat somewhere else. I didn't have my own garage. So this year I was able to keep things a little closer, made storing a little easier, and it's made me looking after things a little easier because everything's right close at hand. So I understand that that becomes a factor for a lot of people. You may not have the convenience of your own garage. You may not have that luxury. Your boat may be stored elsewhere. You know, especially for folks that live in, you know, say an apartment setup or something like that, you may not have the storage to keep all your gear right on hand. But you've got to find a way. You have to make sure, you know, it's the same as anything mechanical. Your boat, your truck that's going to haul your boat, your rods, not your rods so much, but your reels. They are mechanical devices. If we don't look after our equipment, it's not going to look after us. You know, odds are you didn't put your boat away without winterizing it. So should you take it back out and do nothing? You know, everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people have different routines. Do you have a full tank of gas with stabilizer in it? I do know some guys that actually flush their tanks out completely, drain them, pump them out, drain them completely. So they're starting with 100% fresh gas every spring. People do different things. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you what's right, what's wrong. You know, if it works and you find it works for you, and you're not having, you know, mechanics tell you that you're going to harm your boat by doing it that way, do it. If that's what works best for you and you think it's giving you that advantage, do it. I know it's hard to do in the spring. Our first tournament is quite early in the year. Like I said, first weekend in May. Get your boat in the water. Don't just charge your batteries up and show up at the first tournament and say, oh yeah, it'll start. Be an awful rude surprise to find out that it wasn't going to. You know, get your boat in the water. Fire it up. You know, take it for a rip. Get the fogging oil run out of it. Make sure everything's firing on all cylinders, so to speak. Test your pumps. Live well pump, bilge pumps. Make sure everything's working. You don't want any surprises, especially that first time out. Check your mounting hardware. And I cannot emphasize this one enough. Check your mounting hardware. Your gas engine primarily. I have seen guys with bolts ready to fall out. You know, luckily we did have a team in our series last year had a bolt that they noticed before they put it in the water, and they were able to track one down, and they didn't miss out any time on the water. But if that bolt hadn't been caught and they had gone out on the water, and you're not talking a small motor, I can't remember whether these guys are running a 200 or a 250, but you're not talking a small motor. It's not a little 9.9 that you can hang on to the tiller if it starts to break loose. You know, it's going to do some damage if it starts to come loose. It's going to split a transom off, you know, and then those guys very well could end up in the water and lose everything. Your trolling motor. Check your mounting hardware on your trolling motor. Make sure nothing's backed off. There's so much vibration in these boats that things work loose. It's not that anything was installed wrong. It's just the nature of the beast when you're dealing with, the amount of vibration, the amount of movement. Fiberglass boats in particular, there's a lot of twisting in them. There's a lot of flex that causes movement, that causes stuff to loosen itself. It's just, to me, it's common sense. But I mean, a lot of my experience with things coming loose and working loose come from my background in the trucking industry, and especially since I've started doing off-road trucking, I don't go any length of time without checking fasteners and hardware on key elements on my trucks and on my trailers. It has to be done. The boats are no different. They are gonna, you could go, and I mean, a lot of it's luck. You could go for years and years and years and never check anything. And guess what? Now you're in years and years and years of bad habits. Because you're never going to take that time, and you're never going to spot the one time. And you may know 100 guys that have boats, and only one person has ever spotted a problem. Well, what happens if that one person didn't spot that problem? And then all of a sudden, 99 guys that have boats, because one of them died when he wrecked, because he didn't notice something. And I hate to put it that way. I don't want to sound morbid, folks. But that's just the way it is. I've talked in now 10 weeks, 10 episodes of this show that I have done. I've talked a lot about safety, and I will continue to talk about safety. I probably won't stop talking about safety. Because at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter whether you're a rank amateur or one of the top anglers in the world, it's still just fishing. And as I've said before, I drive truck for a living. I don't want to die at my job. If you fish for a living, and it doesn't matter if you're a bass fisherman or a commercial fisherman out hauling in bluefin tuna, you don't want to die at your job. So it doesn't matter whether it's a job or a hobby, you still have to be safe. And yes, we wear PDFs, and that's great. And I'm not telling you to stop. By all means, do not stop that practice. But it doesn't matter because they're not perfect. Most of us wear, did I say PDFs? PFDs. Most of us wear PFDs that are not quote-unquote life jackets. They will not right you in the water. They will keep you floating, but if you're knocked out and you go face down, a lot of the stuff we wear is not guaranteed to right you like a lot of the older life jackets would and keep you face up. So all of a sudden you're floating, but you're face down in the water and unconscious. The end result is still the same. So keep that in mind. Obviously, what I started out talking about with the maintenance of your gear, your rod or your reels in particular, that's not a big safety issue. That's not wanting to pull your hair out because your reel just bound up and you just lost a big fish issue. The maintenance of your boat, and it doesn't matter, yes, first of the year, be a little more thorough. You've got time. Like right now, as soon as I'm done recording this show, I'm going to work here in my garage, getting things straightened up a little bit. I'm going to start doing a little more preparation for the upcoming season. So, I have that. And I'm going to be a little more thorough than normal. I'm going to check the mounting hardware on my motor. I'm going to check the mounting hardware on my trolling motor. I'm going to grease my steering. I'm going to just anything and everything. I'm going to check my lower unit out. I'm going to do anything I possibly can to make sure that the first time that this old beast goes in the water, that I get to go out and enjoy myself and not have to worry about a rash of mechanical issues or safety issues. So, that being said, spring is here. Even though if I look outside right now, it's snowing, so it's hard to believe, but spring is here. So take care of your equipment. It's a cliche saying, and I'm not big on cliches, but it's true. Take care of your equipment, it'll take care of you. And it's as simple as that. And if you're not comfortable with something,